Hello and welcome to the brief overview video of the Element ETC software. Now, you don't have to download this. I talked and showed you where you can get it in the last video, but this is the software, same software that is installed on the lighting board itself. And mine might look a little bit different because I don't have the fader wings or the actual physical buttons. Everything I have to do, I have to either type or click on. So if you do open it up on a computer, you'll have a couple of different options, offline with Viz, backup, offline, and mirror. I'm going to do offline because I don't really want the visualization. The Viz part would be if you had created your lighting board and like all your lights are digitally, so then you can make a show and kind of see where each light was pointing. So again, this looks a little bit different than the way it is on the board itself, but I only have one screen, the board has two. So if you look over here, we have on the left side here, this is all your channels. These all can be made larger. Let me just do that, there we go. So this is all the channels. I actually have the UMTV Studio C default, which is installed on that lighting board, loaded up here. And now, when you see these little tombstones here, that is just a regular old light. But as I scroll down right to here, when you hit 100 to 107, I've patched in the LED lights that are on the columns. And you can see you don't only have intensity with the full versus a 0, you also have red, amber, green, blue, so you can adjust the different colors. On the other screen, or on my side, the right side, you have the playback status, which is where you can make cues for shows and whatnot. So you can bring up whatever lights you want, record it as a cue, and then when you're during a show, if like you wanted to have all the lights turn red all of a sudden, you could go to the next cue, and that cue would just change all the lights for you automatically. It makes the whole preparation beforehand a lot easier than having to try to click on the different lights during the show and say, okay, now I want you to be red. Now, under here, under each of the little screens you'll have this little plus, and there'll be different ways that you can view your channels. So here, if you want to see live table is what I had up before, but if you want to just see them as tombstones, including the LED lights, if I can get it to scroll right, there we go. 100, even though it does have those extra options, you see they all just show up as tombstones. Split channels, where you can get both the channels and the playback status. I'm going to ignore magic sheets for now. Patch groups, your different palettes. Palettes are really nice. Palettes, you can record either intensity, focus, which is more for the moving lights, and I'll get into that later, the color of the light, or a beam palette, which is again for the bigger the moving lights. Really, all you have to worry about is the intensity and the color palettes. That allow you to basically say, okay, I want color palette 1 to be red, and then you can just choose the lights you want and make them red or green or whatever color you want. Intensity, kind of the same thing. It's like I want all the lights to be intensity palette 2 to be at 20%, and you can just automatically recall the intensity palette. So if you're doing a bigger show and you're doing lots and lots of cues, you can bring back the same stuff you've used over and over again. You also have effects, and effects are really cool, and I'll go into that in a different video. Cues, which is kind of what you see on the playback status, macros, curves, etc., etc. And just to go into the bottom of these, really the only ones you have to worry about is probably ML. It's a virtual keyboard. Is either ML, colors, or the faders. Color picker is really nice. So if you selected, let me select 100 through 105, which is the LEDs. Select those. If I open up the color picker, I now am able to kind of click and drag around and pick, okay, if I wanted it to be kind of a nice dark blue, I'll click here and the LEDs will change to that same color, rather than having to go into the table, say, okay, I want 100% blue and 20% red and 30% green to get whatever color you want. You can visually see it and click the kind that you want. And as you open things, you'll see you'll have more and more of these tabs. If you ever decide that, you know what, I'm done with the virtual keyboard, you can right click and either hit close tab or replace it or things like that. So let's close all tabs and go back to the original one.